I'm gonna explode. I can't believe I was muted again. Anyway, hi. Whatever, I'm not doing my intro again. Hi. Why the frick was I muted again? I should not be muted on this scene. Whatever. I don't know why that happened. Sorry, my bad. Anyways. Hi. Welcome to another installment of, YuNovels, where I finished talking about Amnesia memories, hopefully. Because last time I was under some time constraints, and, only got through, like, the basic premise, and then the one route. But I need to know our souls are connected by fate. It looks like you know already, though. Interesting. It looks like you already know. That's crazy. Yeah, sorry. I guess I'm a little bit scuffed right now because I haven't streamed in a couple of days. I guess I just have forgotten how to stream. Oh no, suddenly I don't know how to use OBS. Oh god, wow, what crazy. Anyways, hi. We are in the notebook classroom again because I figured we could do a quick refresher of the boys and like their general vibes and such. The downside of doing these sorts of streams every other week is the fact that there's a chance that we could forget information. By we, I mean the royal we, but sometimes I guess I also mean me. Classic use it or lose it. True. So true. OBS is also once again nagging me to do an update, and I'm just like, I do not want to. Right now, I have to stream. I'm gonna have to manually activate this update here soon. Anyways, but yeah, so hi. We're here to discuss more Amnesia memories. Some Amnesia even. Did you guys like my punny tweet when I announced that I was going live? Did you like it? I thought it was pretty funny. Anyways. Updating stuff hate. I'm like really hesitant with OBS in particular because a lot of times when the OBS updates first roll out, they're really bad. Like really, really, really bad. So ideally, we do not like those. We do not like those. We try to push those off until we know that the build is stable. But I also do not like the pop-up coming up like every other day when I'm trying to stream because I'm just like, please, I'm streaming. I need to stream. Help me. It causes a real crisis. Also, I guess like a little bit of, it's not really housekeeping, but it's more just like quick updating. Onimama is okay. The nonsense that happened last night was pretty bad, but she's okay. We're getting through it one day at a time. So that's good. That is a win. I feel like they maybe I'll talk about this in more detail in members tomorrow, but I feel like things were not necessarily resolved. I'm glad that she's home, I guess, but they didn't really resolve any of the problems that she had. They just were like, well, we can't do anything more for you here, so bye. And that was very frustrating because we thought that she was going to be staying for a couple more days. And instead they were just like, nope. She's coming home within this time frame. And then they kept, one of the bad things that I felt like terrible about was that they kept pushing back the time. I thought she was going to be coming home at like 7 p.m. That's why I canceled the collab with Mimi. She wasn't home until 11:40 p.m. And I didn't eat dinner because I was not sure when she was going to be arriving. And that was very stressful. I was basically on call waiting to figure out when it would be time to bring her back. And it was not good. It was not good. I didn't want to risk, like, making dinner. I didn't want to risk, like, streaming or anything during that time because I felt like the minute I was gonna go live or, like, the minute I was gonna start, like, boiling water for food or something, that was gonna be when I get the call that's like, she's on her way, it'll be, like, 10 minutes, and I'd be like, ah, frick. So, that was a bit of a pain in my ass, but I'm glad that, she's home and she's okay. Even if it was, even if it wasn't until, like, super late at night. And again, things weren't really resolved. We just have, like, more appointments to set her up for, so that's great. That's fun. But we're gonna get through it. It's, like, obviously it's still, like, pressing, but it's not as pressing as it was when she initially went to the hospital. So, I think it's okay. We'll get through it, basically. Yeah. But anyways, that's the quick Oni Mama update for those of you who might be curious. She's okay. We're just figuring it out one day at a time. There's a chance that she might have to go back in again, depending on how she's feeling, but we kind of don't really know what's going on, even though we know that there really is something going on. So, hard to say. Hard to say. But anyways, enough about that. We're here to talk about anime, boys. Enough of that depressing stuff. Let's kick that to the curb for now. I'm going to cope by talking about anime men. A healthy coping mechanism, if you ask me. But yeah, as a quick little recap, so last time I ran through the basic premise of Amnesia Memories, which is you are a girl who fuses with a spirit, and because the spirit has such a strong, like, presence as, like, a separate entity, he takes up a lot of space in our protagonist's brain and makes her lose all of her memories and all of her core personality traits. And then you pick love interest, you go down love interest route. In every route that you go down, I guess besides maybe Ukyo's, you are already dating the love interest, and it's just a matter of you trying to, like, make sure they don't get suspicious of you as you try to pretend that you have your memories. And we talked a lot about Toma's route. We discussed the value of the cage. Yes, I know, throwaway IRL, embrace the cage. We discussed the cage because you guys wanted to know about Cage Boy first, so we already went over Toma. And as a quick refresher for that, the cage is justified, or, well, not justified, but there's a reason for the cage, and both of the characters, while they are both, not exactly in the right for what they're doing, they allow the cage to kind of happen as it does. So, like, obviously, don't put somebody in a cage, actually, but within the context of that particular route, it could be worse. In my opinion, it could be much worse. So that's the situation with Toma. Which means, in terms of love interests, we have, yeah, major spoilers, by the way. So we still have to go over Shin, Iki, and Kent. And also Ukyo, but I feel like Ukyo is probably better to save for, like, the last one, because he is considered the true route. It quite literally could have gone worse. Yeah, there are bad endings where... Oh, why did it do that? There are bad endings where Toma does do things that are a little bit more intense. But not always. It's hard to explain. There's, like, a couple different bad endings you can get, and there's a couple... like, some of them are by Toma's hand, some of them are by somebody else's hand. Oh my god, today. Kobe-san! Toma, shitteru? Yandere. Dakedo... kakkoyoku nai? I feel like I'm trying to explain this as best as I can. I still think he's kind of cool, even if yandere. I was wondering, I noticed that Kome-san was liking a lot of the tweets that I made about Toma, or that had Toma in them, like the thumbnails and such. Looks like Kome-san knows about Toma. Also, I should add Kome-san as a moderator. Oh, nice snipe. Thank you, Piro, for the memberships. Nice snipe. Nice snipe. Let's go. You don't miss real. The only lights guide you back to me. Thank you, thank you. I appreciate the gifteds. Kome Sensei here to share in the men. True. I mean, Wakaru, if I saw one of the other girls talking about Otome, you know I would be seated. I would be watching, I'd be ready. Quietly observing their opinions. But yeah, we already discussed Toma, so our options are Shin, Iki, and Kent, and we can also discuss Ukyo, but I think Ukyo is better left for last. Because Ukyo is, like, partially the whole reason we're even in this mess. Which you will understand later. So, pick your poison. Do we want to talk about Shin next? Iki or Kent? If you will remember from my other, more general Otome 101 stream, Kent happens to be, one of my two favorites. I like Shin and Kent the most. And then I think it goes Toma and then Iki. But honestly, I like all four of them quite a bit. Ukyo is, like, on the bottom. Ukyo's, like, he's okay, but, If we're gonna talk about Yandere. When I was discussing, analyzing Amnesia with, Sora brought up that, he really likes Ukyo, and I was like, I see. So that's your type, huh? After the reveal in Toma's story, I feel like I need to know what Iki's deal is, and then Kent? Okay. So we've got two opposing thoughts. But it looks like we are gonna be talking about the big guy. Oh, Nano! Hello, Nano. Hello, it's Nyanobots, right? I'm still learning everybody's fan names. I feel like I get it wrong sometimes. Oh yeah, okay, it's Nyanobots. Thank you for the raid message, that helps. Hi guys! Welcome, welcome. I hope you guys had a good stream with Nano, and it was with Miri, right? Hope it was a good stream. Hello, hello. Welcome in. I'm talking about Amnesia Memories, which is a Otome game. This is a spoiler-heavy version of the stream. I did a general one before. This is a more spoiler-heavy edition, so if there's any chance that you might play Amnesia Memories, and you don't want spoilers, maybe don't watch. But, yeah. Yeah, welcome. Hope you had a good stream. Okay. So we're deciding between Iki and Kent. I can maybe talk about Iki, because Iki's is the one that I have the most completed, actually. I like 100% at Iki. Which I know is funny, because I just said that he's, like, not in my top faves out of the four, but, like... When I was still trying to be more completionist with it, I got all of Iki's endings. So I kind of know the most about Iki, funnily enough. So we can discuss Iki first. He was also the route I played first. When I first did the game, I, like, went with my gut, kinda. And I just kind of chose, the suit that I liked the most, which was, I chose Spade. And then I ended up on the Iki route. Your words and actions aren't matching. Look, they don't always have to match. They don't always have to add up. It be like that sometimes. Look, okay? Listen. He was the one I ended up on first, okay? But yeah, sure. Okay, we'll go with Iki. We'll go with Iki. So... I already went over the beginning of his route a little bit here. But, long story short, you are already in the process of dating him. Or, like, you've started kind of dating him, at the beginning... Or, like, the end of August into, like, the beginning of September. Because, as I've said, Wait, no. I'm getting the dates wrong. You started dating him near the end of July into the beginning of August, because the entirety of the game takes place within the month of August, if I remember correctly. Yeah, August, because it's summer vacation. So, you started dating him a little bit before the start of August. He's considered the Playboy route. He comes to pick you up, and but you see him surrounded by a bunch of girls, which makes Orion immediately not trust him, because he's just like, is he cheating on you? Dude, that sucks. Why does your boyfriend seem like he sucks? And the heroine's just like, I don't know. I literally just got here. Like, she doesn't know what's going on either. Why would you ask this? So, So, we find out through a series of events that, Iki has a special power. And he's, like, the one character, I guess besides, you could argue maybe Ukyo later, that has, like, a power? Like, an actual, like, super... I don't want to call it a superpower, but it's like a supernatural ability where, if he makes eye contact with any woman, they will fall in love with him. And the more they are exposed to, like, this direct eye contact with him, the more kind of crazy they get. And so he actually has a dedicated fan club that devote themselves to, how do I explain this without sounding crazy? But the whole point is that they are crazy, so bear with me. They basically control the amount of time that women can interact with him. And, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Forgive me, this is very complicated to explain. But he has a fan club, and the president of the fan club is, our side character, Rika. She's the president of the fan club, in case you forgot. Rika is involved very heavily in Iki's route for that reason. But it's basically their job to kind of, like, monitor who interacts with Iki and for, like, what length of time. And also, it's very rare that Iki can get close to any woman around his age that isn't in the fan club, because they heavily monitor who he interacts with. Can we sit on the prison screen? Do you want me to be in jail the whole stream? How are you supposed to know who we're talking about? Alright, fine. We'll sit on the cage screen. Whatever. I guess I'm in prison. We're not talking about Toma right now, though. We're talking about Iki, the blue one. Anyways. I'm trying to figure out how to articulate how this route goes, but basically you find out slowly that, the heroine has never reacted to Iki's eyes. She's never been affected by them. You actually find out, through slowly unlocking her memories, that she kind of hated Iki because he was so flirtatious. She didn't really see what the big deal was about him. And then, you know, because of the fact that she is the only woman that he has met where his eyes don't work, he's, like, of course, more interested in her than he's been in any of the other, like, girls that he's casually dated. The thing about Iki, though, is he has this reputation among the girls that he's a serial dater, where, like, he'll date someone for maybe... I think the longest time he's allowed to date someone is, like, 2 or 3 months, I think? I can't remember the exact date. I apologize. I probably should have looked that up before this, but I can't remember the exact duration. But he only dates girls for a certain period of time and then dumps them. And I believe after the end of July, we are already past, like, that second month and we're going into the third. And basically, Iki spends a lot of this month in this route talking about how he doesn't have a lot of time left. Because he's used to relationships ending at the 3-month mark. Yeah, you notice it said aloud. He's used to his relationships ending around the 3-month mark, so he's hoping to convince the heroine to fall in love with him by the end of this. And that's, like, a special, like, challenge that he has issued both to her and also kind of to himself, because he really wants to, like, choose her. he's, like, fully invested in her and wants to commit to her out of, like, everybody that he has dated up to this point. And because, like, back then she wasn't really that interested in him, she joined the fan club because she wanted to see what the big deal is about him. And, because she has memory loss, she forgot that she was part of the fan club. And remember how I said that Ikki's fan club kind of monitors how girls are interacting with him and for how long? Our heroine has forgotten to fill out her daily reports about what she is doing with Ikki every day, because she didn't remember that she's in the fan club. And so this makes the fan club furious, because that means that she is directly going against the rules of their club, and it seems like she's disrespecting everybody else's time with Ikki in favor of trying to monopolize him. So a lot of Ikki's route involves the fan club starting to become slowly more and more aggressive towards her, to the point where several of the bad endings, and this is actually the first ending that I got in this video game, they'll kill her. Genuinely. They want to, like, murder her because of the fact that they are obsessed with Ikki due to that, like, hypnosis power that he has. They are willing to kill any girl who goes against, like, the rules that they establish in their club. And the first ending I ever got in this video game is the worst possible ending for the Ikki route, where, Rika goes crazy and is like, you have been undermining, our club. You have been monopolizing Ikki too much. We deserve to talk to him as much as you do. Use a bitch, and then, like, pushes her off of a cliff, and our heroine ends up in a coma. Ikki is sitting next to her, in, like, the end scene, and he's, like, talking about how upset he is that she had to suffer just by being associated with him, and he vows to figure out who did this, and basically it's implied that he goes crazy and is going to also, do a little crime, do a little violence towards the people who took her away from him. So that's fun and cool. How dare you not fill out the paperwork, Parrish? No, but literally, they care so much about it. But, so that's, like, the worst possible ending you can get for Ikki, fun fact. Where you literally get, like, killed. So that's fun. Where do we go from here? Right, so you find out slowly over the course of the rest of the route that, the reason that all of Ikki's relationships have ended around the 3-month mark exactly is because that is what the fan club mandates. Everybody in the fan club is allowed one chance to date Ikki, but they can only date him for 3 months. After that, they have to break up with him, and then they have to, like, give up that position to somebody else in the club. And, currently it is the heroine's turn. Although I believe it's implied that she, like, skipped the line, because, it's actually the first time that Ikki asked somebody out first. Usually, Ikki waits to be approached. But he actually asked her out, which led to, you know, the club was already pissed about that, because it was like, oh, that's so weird, he's, like, ruining what we usually do here. How could he do this to us? But Rika was like, no, if this is what Ikki-sama wants, we will allow it. We just have to make sure that the heroine follows the rules. Does it recycle around once everyone has had their turn? No. I don't think so. As far as I'm aware, no. Also, Rika has never dated him, I should point out. Rika... You find this out in a lot of the, like, sequel media and a lot of the, like, follow-up games, but Rika, while she is romantically interested in Ikki, feels like she is not good enough to stand by his side in any romantic capacity, even as, like, a trial period. She greatly values a friendship with him instead, because she's known him since, like, middle or high school? She's known him for a while, but because she has known him for so long, she has felt that it is her responsibility to kind of mitigate how girls interact with him, because it was causing him too much trouble when they were younger. Because girls back then were, like, constantly confessing to him, and also had a tendency to confess to him while he was still dating somebody, and that would make him feel really, really crappy. because, like, he's already with someone, and it's, like, it pains him to make other people upset. He's very much a people pleaser, especially with girls. And he really doesn't like it when girls, try to, like, steal him away from whoever he's currently dating, either. So Rika's solution to all of that was to create the fan club and then have direct control over how every woman interacts with Iki, even if... And, like, she's doing it in secret. Iki does not know that the fan club is doing this. He knows that he has a fan club, and he interacts with them and keeps them happy and everything, but he does not know to the extent that they are controlling how all of the women in his life interact with him. Which kind of sucks for him, honestly. He doesn't have, like, he doesn't have very many normal friendships because he has this reputation of being a flirt, and then also, like, a lot of guys hate him because anytime he talks to a girl, even if she's dating, like, a specific guy, she will, like, probably dump that guy in favor of trying to get with Iki, even if Iki's already in a relationship. Basically, this hypnosis that he has is a bit of a curse. And now I bet you're wondering, but Yuno, how did he even get these hypnosis powers to begin with? Why can't he control it? So when he was a child, he did not have very many friends, and he wished upon a shooting star that he wanted to become more popular with girls. Was like his specific wish. And then, I guess the stars heard him, and they were like, hey, you know what? We're gonna give you special magic eyes that will make every girl want to be your friend. Only girls, though. Only girls, that's the caveat. So he's had this ever since he made that wish. And, like, at first he liked it because it meant a lot of girls wanted to spend a lot of time with him. But then as they got older, those friendship feelings became, romantic feelings. And everybody was, like, obsessed with him in a romantic sense. And, he became more and more tired of it and, like, kind of hated that this was, like, one of the main reasons people would even interact with him in this capacity. And then he meets the heroine, and he's like, finally, somebody that this doesn't work on. I can actually make, like, a genuine connection. And better yet, not only do the eyes not work on her, but the heroine hates his guts, because she thinks that he is a serial flirt and, like, doesn't care about relationships, and that he just kind of sucks. So she's just like, huh, this guy kind of sucks. Why do I have to deal with him? And he is just like, I am going to forge a relationship with this woman. His fan club is a secret cult. No, but, like, actually, yeah. A lot of the things they do are very cultish. They have a lot of specific, like, rituals and things that they do to punish, girls who monopolize too much of Iki's time. Because one of the rules in the fan club, they have, like, a huge, like, rule book that you have to follow when you become part of the club, especially if you choose to date Iki, like, if it's your turn to date him. But one of the rules is that, like, you can't force Iki to go on more dates with you than he does with the rest of the fan club. So there are several points throughout the route where Iki will have to, like, not go out with you, and he will choose to instead, like, hang out with all the girls in the fan club, and they'll, like, hang all over him and fawn over him. And, like, he will, like, basically be kind to them and, like, borderline flirt with them back, even though they know that he has a girlfriend. And the whole time, the heroine is just supposed to be okay with that. You have to play a very fine line in Iki's route where, how do I explain this? There's, like, a really fine line when you're choosing answers with Iki where you, like, respect the fact that he does this with the fan club, but you also have to, like, sometimes express that you kind of wish you could have more time with him, and that you think that it's not really fair that these other girls get to spend that kind of time with him, and that he's basically flirting with them. It's like, you have to walk a very fine line, though, because if you say that you don't like it too much, that's what leads to the super bad ending, where you get pushed off a cliff. There's, like, a specific camping trip that you go on with, Iki's fan club, and, like, a couple other, like, people at the school, because you're part of the same club as him, and you get to go on the trip. There's, like, this cabin in the mountains. That's why you get pushed off a cliff. That's, like, one of the more pivotal, scenes, though. There's, like, several bad endings you could get in that area. It sucks. I cannot play his route because I would just get too frustrated and flabbergasted with the fan club. Look, trust me, I get it too. See, the thing is, though, they make Iki, like, how do I word this? Are we spoiling OTOME? We are, yes. I'm talking about a character's route in Amnesia Memories. I think that they do a good job of making Iki a likable guy. I just also think that they make the fan club so unlikable that it's kind of awful. Like, they try to justify it near the end because they bring up the whole, like, Rika's known him since middle school and, like, wanted to make sure that he could have, like, safe relationships with women without feeling overwhelmed all the time. But it's because she was also technically under the effect of his eyes. She may have never gone after him romantically, but she was still affected to the point where she felt like she needed to control all the other women around him. Suspicious meter. Does that even have a factor on Iki's route since he notices the heroine doesn't remember the big fight? Yes. Yes. It does have a factor. If you get his suspense meter up too much, he thinks that you are just no longer interested in him, and he will just dump you, and he will leave you crying in the middle of the street. If your suspicious meter is up too much, that's the suspicion ending. Suspicion bad end. He will dump you at the middle of the night, in the middle of the street, just like, you have no interest in me, you have been, like, weirdly reclusive, and that sucks, and I don't like it, so bye. And he will just abandon you. And, like, literally the ending of the route is Orion, like, manifesting in front of you and, like, trying to comfort you as you're crying. And he's like, it's okay, we'll still figure out a way to get your memories back. We don't need Iki. But it sucks. It's not a very good ending. It gave me the ick. Because I feel like Iki would never be that disrespectful towards a girl. It sounds like a very complicated relationship to manage. It's because Iki doesn't realize what is going on with the club, and technically neither does the heroine. I think if obviously this would defeat the purpose of the game, but if we played through August with the heroine's memories and her knowledge of, like, what's going on here, we probably wouldn't find it very complicated because we would know all the rules already. The problem is that the heroine forgot that she's in the club and thus forgot all of the rules of the club. And so all of these weird things start happening to her, and she starts getting, like, targeted and, like, bullied by them all the time, and she's just like, oh, this is so weird. Why don't they like me? Because she has no fucking memories. Like, you would think that she would have some sort of reference, like in a journal or something, to the fact that she's part of this club and that she has to make reports, but no memory. Shoo, just did nothing up there. Nothing, zilch, zero, nada. He seemed like the one that wanted the relationship himself in the first place. He does. But he also wants the heroine to, like, respect the things that he has to do for the fan club. But again, he doesn't realize the extent of how much they are controlling him. Once the heroine remembers, kind of, like, what's going on, what the deal with the fan club is, she informs him, and then Iki is like, okay, I am going to take matters into my own hands, and he basically tells the fan club to fuck off. And they're like heartbroken about it, because they're just like, no, Iki-sama, but we just really like you, we just want you to be happy, and he's just like, you think making me happy is controlling the amount of time that I can be with people? I thought I was so undesirable that that's why all these women were dumping me. Like, he thought that, like, because of the fact that it was just his eyes, he thought that maybe the eyes magic just wears off after 3 months and it makes girls no longer like him. Won't they lash out? No, because Rika cares about Iki too much. And, like, anything that Iki says still technically goes for her. The rest of the fan club would. But, the thing about Rika's character is that, like, as much of a all-powerful evil villainess as she can be when Iki's not around, when Iki's there, she is an angel. if he finds out what's going on and then becomes upset with her, she will do whatever it takes to pacify him because she cares about him so much. So she does end up, like, basically dissolving the fan club, and they, like, do everything they can to kind of, like, make reparations to the heroine for treating her the way that they did. In the sequel game, you can actually tell Rika that you had amnesia, and that was why you couldn't remember your club duties, and Rika's just like, oh shit, you had amnesia? That's awful. Now that's a picture to enter his stream. Oh, Hanaki caged Yuno. Hello. I am in the cage. And it is okay, actually. You'd have to watch part 1 of this to understand why it's okay. Because I'm not going to go through Toma's route again, but... But yeah, long story short, they will not lash because Rika, in the end, is still the one who controls them the most. She will, like... And, like, in the sequel games, too, Rika actually becomes one of the heroine's, like, biggest defenders. The rest of the fan club will try constantly to, like, get under heroine's skin and get her to, like, leave, get her to leave Iki so that they can date him. But Rika's like, can you guys stop it? Iki-sama is happy. We should be focusing on Iki-sama's happiness. So she kind of reforms, even though she does a lot of really bad stuff in this route. But, like, yeah. But long story short, you do get to be happy with Iki in the end. You make it to the end of August, and since your memories are back by then, because that's the end of the game, you have since, like, remembered the deal that you made with Iki. Because also part of the deal, this is, like, more related to the overarching plot of the route, rather than the love interest route itself. But basically, in this route, the heroine lives on her own and is, like, separate from her family, but her dad really wants her to move back home, which would mean leaving the town that she's currently in, like, with Iki, and, like, giving up on college and all of that stuff, because, he paid for her rent for, like, the first year or so that she was living on her own, but it's expensive. And she doesn't make enough as a part-time worker at the maid cafe to be able to pay her own rent after this year. So she was trying to figure out what to do, and around when she and Iki started trying this relationship, Iki was like, oh, why don't you just move in with me? I have enough space in my place. And she's just like, huh? Are you crazy? And he's like, no, you should move in with me. So part of the deal, too, is that by the end of the trial period, if the heroine was still in love with him and wanted to keep staying in the relationship with him, she would then also move into his place. So part of the ending, like, part of the true route ending is that, it's implied that you're gonna move in with him, and that you get to, like, have a happy little domestic life with him. It's cute. At least she isn't a bad girl at heart. Rika is a very complicated character. I think similar to Toma for me. Although maybe Rika is slightly less redeemable because of the fact that she can be awful in, like, routes that aren't even related to Iki. If she even thinks that Iki is being remotely threatened or, like, remotely involved with the heroine, she will kind of go crazy. And so it's like, girl, chill. Sometimes it's not about you. Let Iki talk to a woman. But, like, what was I saying? Right, I think that, similar to Toma, I think that Rika has elements of her that are understandable and, like, borderline redeemable. It's just that, like, the thing, too, is that the heroine is also just a very forgiving individual. So and because we see it from her perspective, she is very quick to forgive Rika, despite all of the nonsense that Rika pulled, because it's just like, oh, well, it's also my fault because I forgot that I was part of the club. Bitch, you had amnesia caused by a spirit creature. That is not your fault. Like, it's okay. You're allowed to, like, think that she sucks for treating you like crap. You don't have to justify why she did it. It's just like, but it's my fault. I forgot the rules. This heroine. That's the part of it I don't really like, is that, like, we have a very forgiving heroine. despite how awful the fan club is, like, to her and also towards Iki. Like, she finds out about all the crap they did towards Iki, and of course she's like, well, you guys probably shouldn't have done that, because, that's manipulative. But then she's like, I still forgive you, though. Ma'am? Ma'am? You find out that they've been manipulating your current, like, partners, like, relationships, and we're probably this close to, like, forcing you to break up with him, too, and you just are like, oh, it's okay. I forgive you. It's fine. I find that to be very, very silly. But, you know, that's just me. She definitely sounds like she's too forgiving. I'd be petty. I, for one, would be so petty. I would just be like, oh, Iki's forcing you to dissolve the fan club so that he can spend all of his time with me instead. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to hear that. Anyways. As I just cling onto his arm. Even sticking to the rules means knowingly hurting Iki. Yeah, exactly. It's just so, like... I don't know. The heroine's too forgiving and too quick to, like, blame herself for why other people got mad. But it do be like that sometimes, you know? Sometimes you just have a main character who happens to be a little bit of a doormat. But basically that is Iki's route, in a nutshell. As you can tell, I know a lot about his bad endings, as well as his true ending, because I got every ending for Iki possible. Including his neutral end. His neutral end is that, while you do kind of acknowledge that you both have feelings for each other, the heroine still decides to prioritize her father's feelings, and she ends up moving back home, and their relationship just kind of naturally fizzles out. At first, they're, like, texting and calling each other all the time, because they think that they can handle the long distance, but eventually they just kind of drift apart, and the spark kind of dissipates, and it's implied that they just kind of break up eventually. And Iki doesn't really bother to, like, chase after her or, like, try to convince her to stay. He just is like, okay, well, if you're making this decision, then that means that we're probably not gonna work out. That sucks. Was he your favorite then? No. I know that sounds contradictory. Hear me out. Iki's was the first route that I played, like, the first world that I played. And, I got the super bad ending first, which was the one where it's, when you make it to the camp, like when you're camping in the mountains, that's the one where Rika, like, pushes you off the cliff, you enter a coma, Iki goes on a warpath to destroy all the people who hurt you. And that frustrated me, so I was like, okay, I have to try again now. So then I went and did it again, and then I got the normal ending, which was the one where, like, you acknowledge your feelings for each other, but you still end up moving away, and then your spark fizzles out, and I was just like, what the frick? What am I supposed to do here? Because last time, I was too, I, like, had too much of a vice grip on Iki, and I wanted to, like, spend my time with him, because, like, he's my boyfriend. Why would I not? And then the fan club hated me. But then the second time, I thought I needed to be more accepting of the fact that he was spending all of his time with the fan club, and I wasn't possessive enough. So because I wasn't giving him the time, or, like, trying to keep him for one-on-one time, I guess is what I should say. Because I wasn't doing it enough, he thought I didn't care about him enough. And so that's why he didn't really, like, push when main character suggested that she was gonna move. So, like, I was frustrated because I was like, then what do you want from me, video game? And then I got the other bad ending, which was the one where your suspicion meter is too high, and so it's like time to time to get dumped in the middle of the street, and I was just like, what do I have to do to get this true ending? So I had to pull up a guide. I had to get a guide in the end for the true ending. So it ended up being the most complete because I just couldn't do it naturally. So that's why his is the route that's 100%ed, because I couldn't get the true end no matter how hard I tried on my own. Yeah, in the end it was guide time. There is no shame in that. If you want to get the full experience of an otome, and you specifically only want to get, like, good or true ends, get a guide, who cares? Otome and like most visual novels are a very big time requirement, so sometimes it sucks dedicating several hours to reading through a game just to get like a bad ending and then have to go through it all over again. So, you want to keep a guide? Keep a guide. Have a guide handy. So I did use a guide for the true end. But that's why I got all of his other endings before then. After this, the thing is, you don't really get anything for 100%ing a route in the first Amnesia Memories. You get stuff in, like, the sequel games if you 100%, I think. But also in the sequel games, there's no bad endings. So, you don't get anything for 100%ing a route. So in the end, I just kind of was only focusing on routes where I would get CGs. Which is, pretty much only the true end and the normal end. I think you also get CGs, for, like, very specific bad ends, maybe? I don't recall off the top of my head. But it's pretty much only by getting the good and true ending that you get all of the CGs for a character. So, in the end, I focused on getting true end and normal end, respectively, for every other character. I actually did a pretty good job, though, with, like, the other routes. I didn't really need a guide, pretty much. I got true end for Shin, I got true end for Kent, and I got true end for Toma. Just by nature of playing game naturally. There's only Ikki's I can't do. I guess Ikki, because Ikki required such a fine balance of, like, cling to me, but also don't cling to me, but also cling to me, but also don't cling to me. I think that push and pull is just not a relationship dynamic I naturally understand. Meanwhile, with all the other love interests, even Ukyo, technically, all the other love interests, it was a lot more straightforward romantically. It felt like it made so much more sense to, like, follow those routes, in my opinion. I was able to keep the balance a lot more easily. Ikki's route, I think, is just very unique in a lot of ways. I said this before, too, but there's something unique about Ikki's route in terms of, like, everyone's relation to the heroine as well. You find out in Ikki's route, specifically in Ikki's universe only, there was a point in time where Toma and the MC were actually step-siblings. Because it's implied that heroine's dad was a serial marriage jumper, I guess. He jumped wives just as much as Ikki was tending to jump girlfriends. That's kind of why the heroine didn't like him, because he reminded her too much of her dad. But there was a period in time where her dad dates Toma's mom, and so they were step-siblings for a little bit. But then, you know, like all of her dad's other marriages, he divorced her, and then they, like, went to go be part of another family. But Toma always still kind of had that, like, connection towards her as like a step-sibling, like her older stepbrother. So you encounter him in the route, like, one time because he's worried about the heroine being sick, and he's, like, looking after her as, like, a sibling figure. And Ikki's just like, who is this man? Why is he in your apartment? That is the stepbrother, Ikki. It is okay. Do not panic. But that's, like, the only route where something like that happens. Also, you're not childhood friends with, Toma or Shin in this route. That's something I think I mentioned that about the heroine already in Shin's route, but ordinarily, in both Toma's route and in Shin's, you guys are a trio of childhood friends. So, yeah. Serial marriage jumper is an interesting plot point, especially if the guy is also either a scammer or a criminal. He's not a criminal, as far as I know. I think he, like, owns a business or something. They don't really talk too much about the dad. He's really only there to be a plot device to, like, rush the heroine into, moving out and or, like, leaving Ikki. You don't really find out very much about the dad. You find out more about him in, like, the sequel game, because he actually plays a bigger role there, but, you don't really find out much about him in this route. You just know that he has been jumping marriages. There's also, like, a period where, you find out that he is, like, currently attached to his current wife and doesn't seem to have plans to divorce her, and that makes the heroine confused, because it's just like, why now? Why are you suddenly willing to settle now? And it's basically meant to be running in parallel to, like, what Iki is doing with her. So I think that's why it's there. It's a metaphor, you see. They're running in parallel to each other, you see. It's the testing plot device. It really should have been. He is not named. He is just father. Or like dad. But yeah, that is the Iki route. I honestly think that of the routes, I guess besides Ukyo's, because Ukyo's is also pretty crazy, I think that Iki's is like the second most crazy. Which I know is crazy to say when we literally have a route where the heroine gets locked in a cage, but I feel like at least Toma's general plot progression makes sense. Iki's is just a bit silly. But he's a good love interest still. I really, really like him. Iki's a good guy. He's also, he can be quite silly sometimes. Whenever he wants to make sure that his eyes have less power, he always uses something to cover them up. So usually he's wearing sunglasses. But there's also a time where he wears a full face mask to make sure that nobody is affected by his eyes and like, why does he do that? He wears like a full like Kamen Rider-esque looking mask, and it's very funny. That's what he's wearing when he runs to the apartment to check on the heroine when she's sick. So when he encounters Toma's just like, why is there a masked man in your apartment? And Iki is just like, why is there a random man in your apartment? Like, they're both just looking at each other like, why are you here? But except Iki's wearing the mask. It's so dumb. I don't know how the cage ending ranks worse than being off. I know, right? That's why I don't think Toma is that bad. You guys just don't understand the value of being put in the cage, okay? He's literally doing it to protect you. He's trying to make sure that you don't keep getting harassed by these people in this club. He just wants to keep you safe. Being in the cage is better than going and getting pushed off a cliff, don't you think? Smile? Smile? Okay. So that is Iki's route. Pretty much. Unless anyone has any questions. We'll do Kent next, since somebody also wanted to hear about Kent. Kent's route is fairly straightforward, I feel. At least compared to the silliness that is Iki's. Gonna drink some water. Trying to make sure I don't over-yap like I did last time. I am constantly in fear that I'm going to get laryngitis again from talking about Otome games too much. I think I'm doing a pretty good job of staying relatively chill. I hope the things that I am saying make sense. Even if it's just me going meh 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 meh, and you guys are just like, she's certainly talking about something. Okay. Well, if we don't have any questions, I shall move on to Kent. As a refresher for people who don't know what Kent looks like, is this guy. This is Kent. Hi, Kent. He's cool. Does the cage come with a Tamagotchi plush? No. The cage is... Well, actually, I don't think I mentioned this, but he does actually put a bunch of, like, fluffy stuff in the cage because he doesn't want the heroine's back to hurt. So he does actually put in a lot of, like, pillows and blankets and plushies to try and, like, make her feel more comfortable, but that's because he only remembers her interests from when she was little. So he doesn't really know what she's currently into, so he gives her a bunch of, like, childish stuff. So technically, I guess if a Damarachi plush did exist in the real world, it could technically end up in the cage if Toma, like, put it in the cart, I guess. If Toma decided that that was something worthy of being put in the cage. You did mention you decorated the cage with stuff? Oh, I did? Okay, nice. Good job past me. I honestly didn't remember. But yeah, he puts a lot of fluffy stuff in there. Specifically things that she used to like in childhood. In the hopes of, like, making it more comfortable for her. And less scary. Although, that is also seen as kind of scary, because it's a lot of, like, childlike stuff. Part of his fixation, I guess, is that he keeps trying to preserve the heroine in his memory as being, like, a little sister, because he's still... Sorry, I'm info-dumping about Toma again. I wish I wasn't like this. But, like, part of his whole thing with her is that he's constantly warring between being interested in her romantically versus still just trying to protect her as if he is the big brother looking after his little sister. So it's a very weird, twisted kind of complex for a while where, like, as he goes deeper into this desire to protect her, a lot of things get kind of warped in his view where, like, he sees her as a woman, but also he still sees the little girl that was his childhood friend that saw him as a big brother. So he keeps and I think it's also part of his way of trying to, like, distance himself from her because he doesn't feel like he can be with her romantically because of the fact that he's like this. So part of the, like, wall that he's building up is that he will project those kinds of, like, thoughts of her as a child onto her and, like, kind of baby her and, like, do these things where he gives her, like, all the baby doll stuff. Yeah. I knew that he did that, and I don't know how else I would know that. Oh, latent memories. That's funny. No, I probably did talk about it, but anyway, Toma's such an interesting character, but this ain't about him anymore. Toma, you had your time. Get out of my head. This is what I get for leaving the cage screen up. It just makes me think about Toma more. Silly, silly man. Silly yellow creature. Anyways. On to Kent. So Kent's route is unique in that you've only been dating him for, like, a few days at this point. Like, you started dating near the end of July again, and like, when you have your memory loss, you wake up at the beginning of August. You've only been dating him, I think, for, like, a week before this. It's, like, the shortest time compared to when you are dating the other love interests. So, like, your relationship is still fairly new, and one of the reasons that Orion is immediately sus of Kent is that, slide change? No. The people want me to stay on the cage, but this is Kent, in case you needed a refresher. I'll stay on the Kent slide for now, but somebody asked me to stay on the Toma slide. Anyways, one of the reasons that Orion is immediately suspicious of Kent is because Kent is very emotionally withdrawn. He is the very stoic, serious, logical, practical thinker. He does not let emotions rule, like, any aspect of his personality, as far as they can currently see. And it is discovered as you slowly, get your memories back. Because, again, the whole point of the route, not just to pursue the boy, but also to get your memories back. You find out that a lot of their previous their relationship before the memory loss was fighting. There was just a lot of arguing, going back and forth, like, just constantly, like, butting heads ideologically, as well as just, like, on, like, basic other concepts, too. And not in a way to where it was, like, toxic, it's just that they were always fighting. And, so when your memories come back and a lot of it is about, like, fights, Orion is just like, were you guys even, like, a good relationship then? Maybe you should dump him. And the heroine's just like, I don't know, I don't remember. Orion keeps trying to get her to give these answers to him, but he keeps forgetting this girl's got literally nothing going on in her brain or in her soul right now because he's taking up all that space. But Orion's also, like, portrayed as a child, so he's not very smart. Anyways. That character design screams stoic logic focus. Yeah, he's got the glasses. He's, like, the tallest love interest as well as, like, the oldest. He is a graduate student studying mathematics as well, which means he's, like, uber smart because he's really good at math. So you got the two characters first meet, actually before he becomes her tutor. You find out that he was, like, working as, like, a tutor at her university, because he goes to a different university. He and Iki go to the same university, and then Toma and the heroine go to the same one. Shin is still in high school, but he's planning to go to the same university as Toma and the heroine. Anyways. Where was I? Right. So, you actually find out that the two met before this, or, like, before he becomes the tutor for her, like, her math class. Because they walk the same route in the mornings. Kent likes to take a lot of morning walks. He's just a morning walk kind of guy. He likes to walk and think and do his, like, stoic man things. And the heroine in this route has a puppy. She has a dog and is, like, usually walking her dog on that route. And that's kind of how they first start talking, like, because they, like, encounter each other on these walks. And, it starts out, like, kind of cordial, but then they start doing that thing where they're bantering a lot. And then Kent kind of slowly starts to value, It's Kent that starts to value, the heroine a little bit and, like, the conversations that they have together, because it's, like, interesting to him. Like, normally he doesn't care about the opinions of people who he thinks are, like, lesser than him in terms of intelligence, but he finds himself drawn to whatever the heroine has to say, basically. I can't remember a lot of the, like, progression of this route. Unfortunately, as much as I do really like it, it's basically like a slow burn kind of, where, like, Kent is, like, realizing that he is grateful for this opportunity to, like, talk to her without fighting. Because this new version of the heroine, that, like, doesn't have that, like, same combative personality at first. Instead of them always fighting, she's trying to, like, make peace with him and, like, try to, like, be kind of, like, calmer and, like, solve things a little bit, like, without fighting over it, basically. And so he's really starting to value the fact that he's getting to know her outside of their arguments. And they keep alluding to this big thing, this, like, big disagreement that they had. And, like, we don't really get the answer to what that is until close to the end of the route, but basically we discover that the thing was... this is gonna sound really shitty on Kent's side, but, like, hear me out. So, long story short, the dog dies. Unfortunately, does the dog die in Amnesia Memories? The answer is yes. So the dog dies, and our heroine is very, very distraught about it. I think it's because of an accident. I think the puppy, like, pulls out of the leash, or, like, the leash, like, it wasn't on tight enough, or, like, something happens. It's, like, a really tragic accident, but the dog gets hit while she's on her usual walk. And, of course, like, Kent is also there, so he, like, sees the accident and goes with her to the hospital while they're like waiting to see if the dog is gonna be okay. But while she is emotionally distraught, Kent, being the overly logical... Hi, Reina! Hi, Sunrays. I'm in the middle of spoiling a route right now. Hi, welcome. So, how do I explain this? Because Kent is the very, like, serious, logical kind of guy that he is, his first reaction is to scold the heroine for not taking care of the dog better. Basically implying that it's her fault that, the dog slipped out of the leash, starts saying stuff about, like, the rates of dogs who are, like, impulsive and, like, going after, like, moving vehicles and, like, all these kinds of, like, really awful statistics that you definitely don't want to be hearing while you are sitting in the veterinary hospital waiting to hear if your dog is going to be okay. And the heroine blows up. She is like, why are you such an asshole? I do not want to hear any of this from you right now. You suck so bad. And then, of course, right after she has this, like, moment of yelling at him, that's when they get the news that the dog didn't make it. And it's like, ooh, ouchie. And, like, Kent still feels bad. Like, he has this, like, oh, man, maybe I shouldn't have said all of that. And he wants to apologize, but by then the heroine's too upset and is just like, I'm so tired of this, I'm leaving. Because she thinks that Kent's just going to, like, rub it in even more, because he was already kind of, like, talking down at her. But the thing is, Kent's just not really good at expressing his feelings, and he thought that talking about it logically was going to be the thing that would calm her down. Obviously, that was incorrect, but, that's, like, why he was doing what he was doing, basically. But that was the big fight. And then, like, not long after that is when the heroine gets her amnesia, and he wanted to, like, apologize to her, but then realized that she didn't remember, or was, like, acting like she didn't remember, and then they just started getting along a lot better, and he was, like, immediately suspicious of, like, why this could be happening. But he also, like, didn't want to look this opportunity. Like, you know the phrase, you don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth? It's basically kind of what he was doing. He was like, I want to take advantage of this opportunity to try and, like, get to know her outside of our usual, like, arguments, and, like, get to know what she's like as, like, an individual. But then, because he's also super smart, he is also, like, the other love interest that finds out very quickly that she has amnesia. And, well, specifically that's because Orion thinks that they can trust him, because Kent is such a, like, calm and logical person. They decide that Kent deserves to know. There's actually a really cute scene where, the heroine will, like, listen to what Orion is saying and, like, write the message down for him. And then, like, pass the notebook over to Kent so that Kent can have a conversation with him. And that's the first time, like, that's, like, the only time Orion actually directly interacts with one of the love interests. And Kent is, like, surprisingly, like, very supportive, because he's like, I mean, I know you have amnesia. I think that the cause is strange. Like, the fact that you can hear a spirit is definitely not something I feel I can inherently understand, but I will at least hear you out. Because at this point, he, like, cares a lot about her and wants to be able to help her in any way that he can. But it's very sweet. He has a lot of cute interactions with Orion. Also in the anime, they add, like, an extra part where Kent asks the heroine to, like, draw what Orion looks like so that he can kind of get a feel for how the spirit looks. And then she makes, like, a really bad drawing. And she's like, sorry, I'm not very good at drawing. And he's like, I definitely can't tell what this is supposed to be, but I get horns and I get scarf. I guess that's enough. She's so cute. Heroine has no skills. No personality, no memories, no skills. I don't know what she's doing. She can't help it, though. She's got a spirit in her brain. It's really cute, though. One of the few things I liked about the anime that they added. It is very sweet. Such a baby girl. She's definitely girl failure energy sometimes. Because it's also stated in a lot of the routes that she's very clumsy. So she's definitely got girl failure energy. There's an anime? Yes. The anime condenses some of the core aspects of each route into, like, 2 or 3 episodes per guy. And then, it kind of cops out at the end and is just like, you saw all of these different worlds. You can choose to go back to whichever one you want. There's no right or wrong answer. And then they don't tell you which route she chose. But that's because, you know, the heroine's technically different personality-wise in each world. So they don't, like, give you enough information to see those personalities come out. It's like, it's really meant to be like a sample platter of each route to, like, get you interested in playing the game and, like, learning what the true answer is for every guy. They, like, I forget how they do it, but basically they make it so that she's jumping between worlds instead of being able to choose just one. Like, she keeps getting pulled out of worlds and then thrust into a different one where she's dating a different guy. And it's, like, different in each one, and she doesn't understand why it's happening. It's only at the end where Orion is able to, like, finally stabilize it enough to, like, let her choose which world she wants to go back to. So if you're looking for something that explains every route beginning to end, the anime is not the answer for you, but it's still an interesting watch, I think. And it does its job of, like, getting you intrigued by the rest of the characters. Isekai anime. I watched the anime before playing the Otome game, and so when I watched the anime, I was like, what the hell is this? Like, I watched it once when I was younger, and then once again when I was a little bit older. When I was a bit older, I think I appreciated it just a little bit more, and at the very least, it encouraged me to want to actually play the Otome game. But when I first watched the anime, I didn't know it had a tie-in Otome game, so I was like, why is there literally no resolution? Why is it so open-ended? And so I hated it. Because I hate open endings. That is something to learn about me, is that I want things to end with a neat little bow, with, like, maybe some room for a sequel, but I prefer things to have, like, a pretty solid ending. I hate open endings. I hate to be continueds. I hate anything that, like, leaves it to the reader's interpretation. I'm just like, no, I need something definitive. I need to know what you think the ending is. Please. An awkward, oh no, I get it now. But yeah, basically a lot of Kent's route is him, like, slowly starting to understand, like, romantic attraction. At first, he thought he was just dating her because of something related to, like, genetics. He's kind of weird like that. He thinks that, like, scientifically there's just, like, a connection between them, and he doesn't really view it as, like, romantic at first, but slowly feelings start coming in, and he becomes just a little bit less logical, and, he, like, goes along with his feelings a little bit more. There's also, like, an overarching thing about how he has to give, like, a presentation as part of being a grad student, because he's trying to apply for this program that will take him to England? Yeah. He wants to go to England. He's applying for this specific study abroad program, and he has to do a really big presentation. And, like, the culminating point of this arc is that the heroine gets in an accident. I think it's related to Ukyo. Pretty sure it is. Yes. And basically this is where you find out if you're getting the true end or the normal end, because, like, normal end, Kent chooses to just go do his presentation and, like, chooses his education. True end is him choosing to not do the presentation, and instead he rushes to the hospital to check on the heroine. But it's very sweet. He chooses to, like, even though he was working on that for, like, the entirety of the month that you're pursuing him in this part of the game, he still, like, he gives it all up so that he can go make sure that she's okay. Because he loves her. And in the end would still want to choose her. You find out, though, as part of the true route that, like, there's another opportunity that he'll be able to take to apply to the study abroad program in, like, a few months. So he's just delaying it by a few months. Even though he was a shoo-in this time, he's just, like, delaying it, and he's like, it's fine, I can just, like, restart my thesis, and I can do a different presentation later. And then in the sequel game, it actually focuses on how the heroine also studies to go on to, like, be part of the program with him, and they both go to England, and it's about them being in England together and being cute. It's very adorable. Kent's a good guy. I like, don't talk that much about the, like, romantic, like, doki doki scenes, because I feel like I don't know how much you guys would be into those. But there's a lot of scenes that, like, particularly make me go doki doki, because I like these kinds of characters. I really like kudere characters. I really like the, like, genius types. I like those routes where you get a logical person to start being a little bit less logical, because they're, like, starting to understand feelings more. I don't know why. This is just something it's just a trope I really like. But I feel like in terms of all of the characters and their, like, romantic moments, Kent and Shin honestly have some of the best ones. Kent is, like, very cool when he is being romantic towards the heroine, and it's very, like, fleshy. It's cute because logically him being there or not doesn't change the heroine's health, shows he became more emotional. Yeah, he wanted to, like, physically make sure that she was okay. even though he knew that she was in capable hands and that she was going to be fine. But he still wanted to be there to, like, support her, and he chooses to support her versus going through with his presentation. It's very cute. I personally, like, when I first played the route, I kind of didn't like that he had to give it up in order to check on her, but I understood why it was being done like that. It needed to show that his priority was different now. But no, Kent's really sweet. But his route's very straightforward for that reason. It's just like, he's working on this thing. At first, he tries to keep the heroine at a distance because he doesn't really understand how feelings work, but then he wants to get closer to her more and more over time, and they just, like, are drawn to each other, and it's very, very cute. He's so respectful of her, and, like, her time, and, he's a good guy. I really like him. There's a reason he and Shin are, like, constantly fighting for #1 in my heart. But there's, like, less to explain with Kent, just because a lot of his is, again, just, fairly straightforward. I don't think I got any of Kent's bad endings. I feel like I might have looked up what they were like, just to get an understanding of them, but I don't think I looked up any of his actual bad endings. Does Kent wear his outfit most of the time, like the one in this image? In the first game, yes. You very rarely see them in their more casual clothing. They didn't really start getting casual clothing sprites until the sequel games. They're pretty much always wearing their defaults, for better or worse. So usually he was only wearing this, yes. I do think he wears like a more normal looking shirt underneath the jacket, but yeah. Maybe I should try some of the otome genre. That's all I could ever hope for. Let me see how pretty here. Like, I think, I said this in my Otome 101 stream. I was about to say 1-on-1. That's not what it's called. 101. But I do feel that people disregard Otome games because they don't... Like, they just think that it's a bunch of, like, fan service for girls. And that it's all, like, super doki doki shoujo manga, moe, cute romance. It's not always that. There are some that have a lot of that, like ones that are more lighthearted, but I happen to like a lot of the otome that have very serious storylines. I don't really I don't really play a lot of the ones that are more so on the fluffy side. It's very rare that I do, because I tend to prefer deeper plots. Which is why the two otome that I talk about the most, which is Amnesia and Bastafellows, are like super plot heavy, and like the romance is just kind of secondary. Well, I think romance is more present in Amnesia than it is in Bastafellows, but they technically both don't focus on romance as much as a less serious otome would, in my opinion. Any recommendations for a beginner? So, it depends on what you like in your story is. Like I just finished saying, Amnesia and Bastafellows are two that I constantly recommend for people who want more of an overarching story versus a love story. Love story is part of it, but it's also just kind of like, it comes secondary to the story that the main game is trying to tell. Amnesia is more of a love story than Bastafellows is. Bastafellows is pretty much not a love story. If you want an introduction to an otome that is more so a visual novel than it is an otome, Bastafellows is the way to go. Amnesia has a very serious, kind of like depressing storyline as its overarching plot, but it has a lot of cute romance, and like it focuses a lot more on the romance, I would say. The only other game that I'm actively playing right now is Cupid Parasite. Cupid Parasite is that like lighthearted, kind of like comedy, borderline parody otome game. It's not parody in the sense that it's making fun of otome, but it's parody in the sense that like it's not a serious story. It's very much like a comedy. It's like a love comedy. It's got like a lot of like wacky fantasy hijinks. It's like more lighthearted. There are moments of seriousness, don't get me wrong, but I think it is generally not a very serious game. And I think it focuses way more on the, like, the romance aspect of it. Like, the plot is not... the plot is not that deep for any of the love interests, to be honest with you. It's very much, like, full of, like, romantic tropes and, like, romantic situations, and it's mostly there to give you, like, those doki-doki scenes with the love interests. And that's good for a certain mood and, like, a certain feeling that you want to have, but, as someone who tends to prefer the otome that have deeper stories, I would really only recommend Cupid Parasite if you were looking for something, like, lighthearted and full of more romance. It probably would go, like, from most romance to least romance. It would be Cupid Parasite, Amnesia, Bustafellows. So it's kind of up to you and, like, what your preferences are in a game. There are a lot of other otome that are coming out within the next few months that I want to play. So hopefully by then I'll be able to have more recommendations. But, that's kind of where things are at for me right now. I have almost finished the first Cupid Parasite. I'm currently working on the sequel, though, because I wanted to get the fan content for my favorites first. I have one more route that I have to play in base Cupid Parasite. And then the fan game, or the sequel game, is also adds a new character, which is wild. They don't usually do that in like Fandis games. So I guess I have to get to know him at some point as well. The name of those were Bustafellows and Cupid Parasite. I'll check them out. Yay! Yeah! Bustafellows and Cupid Parasite. I call it Cupipata, because a lot of these games tend to be shorthanded for ease of talking about. I don't use the shorthand for Bustafellows, though, because I think it's just Bustafit, and I'm just like, I could just say Bustafellows. I could just say Bustafellows. I don't need to shorten that one. But no, they're really good. Recommend. I like them very, very much. Okay. So that's kind of the gist on Kent. Like I said, he's very to the point. It's a very quick, like, point A to point B. Bustafellows for the friends. That too. I want to talk to more people about Bustafellows. Bustafellows also has a sequel coming out in 2025. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Cupid Parasite already has its sequel out. Amnesia has a single sequel game that is 2 games packed into one. And there is actually one more sequel game that has not been localized yet, that I hope gets localized. But that one is less about dating and more about just, like, actual, just, like, silly fan content. Like, that game is purely fan service. The reason that the sequel game, the 2-for-1 sequel game, got released the way it did is because it does actually have, like, more unique romance scenes with your guys. So that's probably why that one actually got localized. The last one is really just nonsense. I legit want to try out Bustafellows, even though it's an otome game. I'm always open to try it out. You should! It's really good. And like I was saying, Bustafellows is barely an otome game. I think it's more so just a visual novel. Obviously, you go down, like, slightly different... You get slightly different story experiences based on whose route you end up on, but, I do really think that it's, a worthwhile experience. I think it's really fun. I really like it. And I'm very excited for the sequel to be localized. I want it so bad. I can't wait until next year. I'm on... I have until next year to get P-Cube to notice me and allow me to stream the game. But of course, if they allow me to stream Bustafellows too, I have to be allowed to stream the first Bustafellows to prepare everybody. I am gripping my desk. I'm just like, please. Please. I need it so bad. Can we speedrun 2024? I know, right? I want to blink and have it be December. Kibipara is only on Switch. Yes, unfortunately, a lot of otome games, you will probably only find them on the Switch. Very few have been released on Steam. At least, like, bigger IP otome. You might find, like, indie otome games, or, like, indie dating sims on Steam. But a lot of the ones that are made by, like, Otome and companies like them are mostly going to be Switch exclusives. You can get the first Amnesia on Steam, and you can also get Bustafillos on Steam. Bustafillos 2 will also be on Steam. But the Amnesia sequels were not added to Steam. I remember being really upset about that when I went to buy them. I was just like, oh, I can only get it on the Switch. Why isn't it on Steam? Because I played Amnesia 1 on Steam. Like the Vita back in the day. Yep. They are just treating the Switch like a slightly bigger Vita, which is fine. I don't mind playing it on the Switch, but like the convenience of being able to play it on Steam meant a lot to me also. Bustafillos seems to be on Steam. Yes, it is on Steam. It is also on the Switch, if anybody wanted to play it on the Switch. The sequel is also already up on Steam, so you can wishlist that as well. P-Cube has honestly been really good in terms of like localizing games and making sure that they have Steam versions. Like they recently localized B Project, which I thought would definitely only be a Switch exclusive, but they made it they put it on Steam too, which is very surprising. I've had this discussion about localizations before, but a lot of Japanese game companies tend to not really prioritize Steam. They don't really care that much about PC gamers, to be honest, and especially they don't really seem to care about utilizing Steam in that way. Even if it is put on Steam, more often than not, it will be region locked. So it's rare to find Otome games that will be put on Steam that are like from Japanese publishers. But P-Cube has been pretty good about it. Anyways, I guess now we're gonna talk about Shin. Shin's route is both straightforward and complex at the same time. You will understand why. Hi, Shin. So Shin was the route that I played second. I played him after I finished Iki's. And I very fortunately was able to get the true ending for Shin. Shin is the poster boy for Amnesia, which is very funny because the game tries so hard to get you to understand that Ukyo is supposed to be the true route. But like, even though Ukyo is supposed to be the true route, they know that Shin is the more marketable one. So Shin is the main guy that's like on all of the game cover art, and like he is like the game icon. I think for Amnesia, like the Steam version of Amnesia. Anyway, they know that Shin is the real marketable one. They know what's up. And personally, I do like Shin way more than I could ever like Ukyo, but I'm sorry, I don't want to shit on Ukyo yet. I don't want to shit on him yet. We shouldn't be there yet. Anyways, so the thing about Shin's route is that his is like a detective mystery. While you are also trying to figure out how to get your memories back, you are also trying to solve, yes, you'll understand. Sorry, you're gonna get a very biased review of Ukyo. While you are trying to get your memories back, simultaneously, Shin is trying to help you figure out who hurt you. Like, literally who hurt you. Because in Shin's version of the universe, in Shin's world, you get your memory loss because you hit your head on a rock. Like, you fell down a cliff, but then, like, while you were hurt, obviously you were, like, okay, but then something else happened that caused a secondary injury to the back of your head, and that is what caused, presumably, that is what caused the amnesia. And, like, it's that, like, concussion that is believed to be the thing that caused your amnesia, even though it's technically not. Like, it both was and wasn't. We'll get there. But there was this event that happens at, there is a, big group event that happens. Like, basically, Shin used to work with you at the Maid Cafe, but he took a break from working there to, like, focus on his exams because he's a third year in high school. So he's, like, focusing on, like, cram school and exams, and he didn't have time to do a lot of work. But he was still invited to go on this trip with, you and the rest of the people that work at, Meido no Hitsuji, to go to that same cabin in the mountains that you go to in Iki's route. That place has a lot of significance. You honestly end up there in, like, a lot of the routes. But you get invited to this big cabin. Iki and Kent also end up being there because, I forget why they're there, but they also just happen to be taking a trip there at the same time. The fan club also ends up being there because wherever Iki goes, Rika goes. I guess maybe it's just Rika. I don't recall. But, like, you and the rest of Meido no Hitsuji are there. And then Toma's also there. Toma gets invited because he's also technically an alumni of the restaurant, I think. Anyway, he also ends up there. Also, he's, like, your third childhood friend, so it makes sense that he'd be there. But basically, everybody was there at this trip to the cabin. And basically, the setup is, and, like, Shin explains this to you when, first, like, discussing how he's been trying to figure out what could have happened. But basically, he was flirting with you a little bit too much, and he got you flustered, because your relationship is still kind of new, and he's been trying really hard to get you guys past the initial barrier of being best friends, to lovers. Because it's implied that the heroine has been really shy about being affectionate with Shin just because she seems to be kind of a shy girl. Like, she just... It's so new to her. Because she's used to seeing Shin as her best friend. And, like, them being a couple is still something she's trying to get used to, and it's still kind of something that's being kept, like, a little bit of a secret from everybody else. But Shin is, like, teasing her about how they could, like, start kissing in the middle of the woods and nobody would see them or whatever. It's, like, it's really flirty. But she, like, runs away because he's been chasing after her playfully. But when she runs, she doesn't realize where she's going and she falls off the cliff. And Shin, of course, freaks out, goes back to the cabin and is like, she fell, I can't find her, I need help. Well, he feels panicked. The thing about Shin, though, is that he is also quite calm. He is similar to Kent that way. So when he comes back to the cabin, everybody else thinks that he pushed her. And so they are all suspicious of Shin. Everyone at this point, this is also explained as, like, part of it, but, like, Shin is currently, like, the top suspect for all of this because he was the last one to have seen the heroine, allegedly. But then, the thing that's confusing everybody is that, the heroine, before she lost her memory, was insisting that Shin was the one who rescued her. Because she did get rescued. She keeps insisting that Shin was the one who saved her, and that there's no way that he could have ever tried to hurt her, because he only ever wants to protect her. So there's, like, a conflicting account. But now that she doesn't have her memory, nobody really trusts her word anymore, because they're like, maybe she was just delusional. Like, maybe she's just a little, delirious because she hurt her head, and now she doesn't actually remember the event itself, so we can't get, like, a clear confirmation from her. So, can we really believe her? Maybe she's just trying to cover up for her evil boyfriend. And, like, Shin is, like, trying to prove, yeah, stop simping, basically. But Shin is trying to prove his own innocence, and he's also trying to figure out who did actually endanger her, because that means that, like, she could potentially be hurt again. So a lot of the route with Shin, involves him trying to, like, suss out everybody else. He's, like, calling all of them, trying to, like, get information, like, what did they remember from that trip? What did they remember from that particular night? Lots of information. And eventually he kind of decides, like, okay, I've gotten all of these, like, interesting tidbits, but nothing that, like, really proves anything. What if we recreate the night? And so what happens is he gets everybody to go back to the cabin at the same time to kind of recreate, the scene to an extent. Not necessarily creating the scene, but, like, recreating the environment to see if it causes anything similar to happen again, or if, like, anybody is suspicious. Oh, I forgot to say, Ukyo is also there. Ukyo is considered the most suspicious because nobody can get a hold of him, after this particular trip. And I don't think he shows back up to the cabin for the retry. But Ukyo was also there. Funnily enough, the fan club seems to be prevalent in all the routes as the villains. They are the villain in Toma's route, and they are definitely the villain in Iki's, but they do not really play that big of a role in Kent's route. And while Rika is there, and Shin is kind of suspicious of Rika at first, Rika's just like, shut up, I don't care. She specifically doesn't care because it doesn't have anything to do with Iki. So she's kind of ruled out as a suspect because she would never do anything unless she felt like Iki was endangered, which he wasn't, so she would not be involved. But like basically everybody goes and they like spend a few days there, kind of just like doing typical like camp, like cabin trip things. So they're trying to like see if they can figure out what could have caused the thing to happen. But basically it kind of happens twofold almost, where it's implied that the heroine had been scared by Ukyo, and then when she fell, nobody could like find her at first because she kind of like I think the implication is supposed to be that she tried to like get up and like move herself, but then she couldn't do it because she was hurt. And she does get rescued by somebody, but who is that somebody? It's like every other character has like a reasonable motive, kind of like semi-reasonable. I think like Iki and Kent are pretty much excused because they were like searching the opposite side of like the mountain where they were all camping. Ukyo wanted to surprise her and gets hurt in the process. No. I might be remembering this wrong though. I feel like Ukyo was involved in some capacity, but then like the actual culprit that causes the thing is not Ukyo. But I do think he was kind of involved. Kind of. Because the whole thing is that the heroine gets separated from Shin, and then when she falls, like, Shin only sees her falling. Like, he doesn't see anything else. He's green derogatory. Technically, Ukyo's image color is like a light purple. Do you know how much I hate it that he has green hair and that his image color is light purple? How dare he? He's stealing my brand. Anyway. But no, like, a majority of this route is about how everybody suspects Shin, and everyone's like, Heroine, are you sure you want to trust him? He was the last one to see you. And when he came back, he was really, really calm. Like, he didn't seem like he was freaked out about what happened to you. Don't you think that Kamini did it on purpose? And Heroine's just, like, really stubborn about the fact that in her memory, she remembers that it was Shin who rescued her. What if Yuno is Ukyo? Guys, don't put this on me. When I talk about Ukyo, you're gonna understand why I don't want this. I don't want this bread. Please. I do not want to be Ukyo. Anyway. But, like, the heroine is really stubborn. She feels like she can trust Shin. And Shin hasn't really had a reason to lie to her. A lot of this route, actually, involves whether or not you can trust Shin. I think a lot of the bad endings happen if you choose not to trust him. Or if you, like... Yeah, if you choose not to trust him, or if you do, like, other things related to, like, not following Shin's word, or, like, doing what Shin says. Shin is, like... I guess besides Kent, I think Shin is, like, the most good guy. Because, like, none of his bad endings involve him hurting her. He does not hurt her ever in any of his bad endings. He is, like, heartbroken by her, but, like, won't hurt her. And honestly, that's pretty epic. He's a very loyal guy. One day we'll get the OTOME where it actually was the love interest as the villain, and it's Shin over. Well, it's not gonna be... It wouldn't be Shin. I just don't think Shin has it in him to actually be the bad guy. The game tries really hard and throws a lot of red herrings at you to make you think it could be Shin, though. I remember when I was playing this, I was playing it, like, with a friend. Like, we were kind of, like, discussing a lot of the options together, and we were constantly like, do we trust him? I mean, I feel like we should, right? He seems like he's just being, like, a really logical guy. But, like, there are just so many red herrings. Shin is just that good friend you friend-zoned in real life. So much of Shin's, like, supporting media is how much he hates being in the friend zone. This poor guy does not like how this girl that he has been in love with for so long, even though he's finally dating her, she's still just like, oh, it's so weird. We were just friends for so long. It's just, I don't know, like holding your hand, that's kind of weird. Giving you a kiss, it's kind of weird. But Shin keeps pushing for, like, that more, physical... He's not pushing for like, that physical intimacy, but he pushes for more things that are, like, kisses and, like, that sort of, like, deeper intimacy. Meanwhile, the heroine would rather just take it really, really slow and just, like, hold his hand and, like, soft stuff. He wants to go for the more intense, like, passionate romance stuff because he thinks that, like, holding hands and being that kind of affectionate is just more friend zone bullshit. But so much of his supplemental media is just him being like, why am I still in the friend zone? We're literally dating, get me out! But it's just, heroine just wants to be really slow. She's scared of ruining the friendship. I would think she is more scared of it than Shin is. Meanwhile, Shin is just like, I want to ruin this friendship so badly. Please, can we just please be romantic? And heroine's just like, but I'm shy. And he's just like, stop. That's literally why they were having that, like, playful scene in the woods that caused her to fall off the cliff. He was trying to, like, flirt with her. Because he's just like, look, do you actually want to date me or not? Because what we're doing right now is no different from what our friendship was like. They're very cute, though. I like their dynamic a lot. Because even though he's, like, really insistent on breaking out of the friend zone, he does still, like, deeply respect the heroine. And if she's ever, like, truly uncomfortable, he regrets it. He understands her so well, and it makes me cry. They're so cute. So, anyway, long story short, you eventually get to a point where Shin has figured it out, like, a while ago. But he wants to see if, after being with everybody at the camp, the heroine has figured it out. And you basically get to choose, out of all of the characters that are there, you can choose who you think was the one responsible. I think you get the normal ending if you get it wrong. Depending on who you choose, though. I think if you choose a very specific person, you get, like, a bad ending. But I think it's normal end if you choose anybody else. I think. I don't know. I did technically get it wrong, but I reloaded the save, and I picked the other person I thought it was, and then I got it right. Hopefully, like in Danganronpa, you can accuse yourself. No. We cannot accuse ourselves. But you can accuse literally anybody else who was at the cabin during the initial time of the accident. The safe scum strat. Look, I had gotten everything perfect up to that point. I did not want to blow it by choosing the wrong person. And like I said, I had been torn between the actual culprit and, like, one other person. And I had been going back and forth, like, I don't know who it is. And so when I guessed and I got it wrong, I was like, damn it, it was probably the other one. And then I was right. Was it the dog? The dog is only in Kent's route. So no, it was not the dog. Because the dog does not exist in this world. But no, I initially guessed Sawa, because there are implications in this route that Sawa has romantic feelings for Shin. And I had the thought, like, because she was acting kind of suspicious and was, like, constantly trying to pin it on Shin, I was wondering if that was her way of kind of trying to, like, cope with the fact that she had feelings for her best friend's boyfriend. And she, like, couldn't help but want to take some sort of, like, vengeance out on the heroine and, like, try and frame Shin or whatever. I don't know. I had a specific reason in my head that probably made more sense during when I was playing, but I was totally banking on the fact that it was because it was implied Sawa had feelings for Shin. And then that was wrong. And Shin was like, Sawa? And was, like, insulting me for choosing that, and I was like, shut up, Shin! And then I reloaded the save and I chose Toma, and that was correct. So it was Toma. Basically, what we find out is that, I do believe that Ukyo was the one that got that, like, scared the heroine into falling off the cliff. And then Ukyo, like, panics about it and, like, goes to get help. And then it's around when Shin ends up, like, finding the heroine falling. But basically, heroine hits the ground. Shin goes back to the cabin, sends out a search party of everybody else. Besides Ukyo, Ukyo has not returned. But, like, everybody else, like, spreads out and starts searching, and Toma ends up actually, like, being near the cliff and, like, finds where the heroine fell. He goes to, like, scoop her up and, like, keep her safe, and because she hit her head, at first she mistakes Toma for Shin. And Toma does not take kindly to this, and he's like, why do you have to say his name? And then he bashes her head against a rock. Just impulsively. Like, he can't really stop himself from doing it. He's just angry. And it's just, it just happens. Instinct. Knocks her out. Gets the, you know, basically is the one to, like, cause the eventual memory loss. Because it's already, like, exacerbating what was already a present concussion. And, he immediately feels bad about it. But, like, I forget what happens after this. I think he leaves. He freaks out that he hurt her and, like, leaves. And then, I think Iki and Kent end up being the ones to properly find her. And they're the ones that get her back to the cabin and everything. I think that's the order of events. Shin figured this out very, very early. He very quickly realized it was Toma, and he also assumed that it was because Toma also has feelings for the heroine. So they end up having a confrontation. The heroine is there, like, with him while he's confronting Toma about this. And basically says that Toma should turn himself into the police or else Shin will do it. And Shin really doesn't want to do it because if he does it himself, Toma's definitely going to get a harsher crime. Or harsher sentencing, I should say. Harsher crime. I don't know how to talk. Sorry. Did they throw punches? Yes? I do think they punch each other once. They do that whole, like, bros at sunset throwing a punch at each other vibe, I think. I know they also do that in Toma's route. They are bros, though, so that's just the bro thing to do. But basically, what they want to do it like this because they don't want Toma to disappear. They don't want Toma to, like, separate from them and, like, pull out of their lives. Because, like, even though he did this thing out of passion and obviously did still hurt the heroine, they both still care very deeply about him. And they don't want him to feel guilty for what he did. They want him to stay. They, like, want him to not suffer, basically. Meanwhile, Toma, of course, is the martyr that he is. Even in his own route, he's a martyr, or tries his best to be one. But, like, when he wants to, like, stay fully separated away from them because he thinks that he shouldn't be near her after hurting her like that. And Shin's just like, you're stupid. You're gonna hurt her more by not being in her life. But basically, they all kind of agree that they should at least, like, take some time apart. And Toma does turn himself in. He explains that he was the one that caused that secondary injury. It's like a very light punishment, like Shin suspected it would be. And Toma chooses to, like, leave town for a while to kind of, like, reflect on himself, like, reflect on what he did, basically. Try and get over his feelings, like, away from them, I suppose. And then, Shin and the heroine are just, like, they just, like, emphatically tell him that they are waiting for him to come back. And that, like, they don't hate him. Like, they want him in their lives. Like, don't leave. You dumbass. Do not leave us forever. That's something that I really like about, both Shin and Toma's route. Like, they both have a presence in each other's routes where it's, like, very grounding. They have a very obvious rivalry between one another, but they both care very deeply about, like, their friendship, and they really respect each other's feelings for the heroine as well. I thought that was, like, a really kind of cool thing, and, like, obviously, you could argue, like, why would they forgive him after, like, doing something out of passion like that and, like, actually hurting her, but they are childhood friends. In a lot of ways, they are all each other has. It's like, they have this, like, very strong bond to where they don't hold it against one another. It's just how they've always been as friends. But I thought that was a really interesting way to approach it, to be honest. Like, I thought that Shin's willingness to forgive was really, really nice. By the moment Toma gets out, Shin is still gonna be in the friend zone, so you know what should change. No. He gets out of the friend zone eventually. It's just that, like, they have to come to a better understanding of where each other is at emotionally. You have to understand, too, Shin is considered the youngest love interest because he's still a third year in high school. Granted, he's, like, ass-deep in exams. He's basically almost done. But, because he's, like, the youngest, I think he's also the most impatient romantically. And I think the problem is that the heroine wants to be able to take it really, really slow. She doesn't feel ready to, like, jump into extreme romantic situations yet. And they just have to work on their communication, which they do accomplish in, like, the sequel game routes. Shin does a lot better of, like, communicating about his frustrations. The heroine is good about expressing how she's not quite ready for some of the things he feels ready for. And they work, like, slow and steady towards a point in their relationship where they can both be happy. It's just slow going compared to some of the other routes. But they're very cute. I like them a lot. But Shin's is the most, like, I feel like his is less focused on romance, both because he figures out you have amnesia really quickly, and also because he's so focused on basically trying to convince Toma to turn himself in. Like, he wants Toma to confess and, like, turn himself in so that way it'll be a lighter sentence. Because if Shin has to go to the police and report it, then because it was being reported by somebody else, and it wasn't the perpetrator themselves coming clean, they're going to think that he's particularly guilty and the sentencing will be worse. And Shin doesn't want that for him, because Shin doesn't hold it against him. But because Shin is so focused on, like, getting Toma to admit it, specifically also getting him to admit his feelings for the heroine, there's less, like, romance between the two, and it's more just, like, doki-doki, kind of. Like, Shin expresses his frustration about how this whole situation is leaving them even more in, like, the friend status than before. But, and, like, he has those moments of, like, wanting to be possessive and, like, wanting to, like, smooch her and all of this stuff, but it's also just, like, you can just tell he genuinely cares about her, both from that friend level and from that romantic level. In Shin's route, that's honestly where I felt like the heroine was probably the most actively loved. I think everybody else has moments of selfishness when it comes to their loving of her. I feel like Shin is the most selfless when it comes to his relationship with the heroine. He is so patient. He is willing to deal with so much bullshit if it means that he can keep her safe. He is the most selfless with his love of her. Shin does sound like a good boy, to be honest. Yes. He's a very good boy. I care about him so much. I actually found out the other day that a lot of people tend to forget about Shin when it comes to the Amnesia love interest, and I was just like, how? He's so cute. He's still, like, in my top 2. I care about him so much. But no, I think his story is really good, and I like that it's, a bigger, like, overarching mystery on top of the mystery of the amnesia. He never finds out that we actually got amnesia because a spirit entered our brain, but, like, how he's, like, the poster boy, I know. But I guess a lot of people tend to think more about characters like Toma, or about, like, Iki, or Ukyo, because they kind of have more overall, like, shocking and memorable moments in their stories. Honestly, I think the love interest that should be forgotten the most is Kent. I think him being the safe choice might contribute to that, given everyone wants Cage Daddy Toma. Ugh. I mean, I like Toma, don't get me wrong, but I think that there's a lot of value in Shin's route as well. I am weak to both childhood friend routes. I like that Shin's is the more traditional, like, childhood friend experience route. And I like that Toma is kind of the twisted childhood friend experience. I like that it's two sides of the same coin. And I think that there's value inherently in both. But, you know, we could also argue that a lot of people don't really like when the childhood friend becomes the lover, because it's just like, the childhood friend should never win. Meh, 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 meh. One day OTOME will advance to the point where we can say both of you actually get over here. No! Literally, if any game deserves to have, like, OT3 endings, it's fucking Amnesia, because the four main guys... I'm ignoring Ukyo. No one cares about Ukyo. The four main guys, the way they pair up, it just makes sense to have the heroine be in the middle. There are so many goddamn scenes in this video game where the two love interests, like, for example, if it's Shin and Toma, those two will be bantering, and the heroine will be, like, in the middle, like, giggling at how cute and silly they are because they are her childhood friends and she loves them. Same fucking thing happens with Iki and Kent. Iki and Kent have this rivalry where Kent will randomly appear and act like a supervillain and be like, ah ha ha, you will not be able to solve this math problem this time, Ikkyu. And Iki is just like, you foul fiend, how dare you? I'm going to solve this just to prove you wrong. And, like, the heroine also laughs in that situation. She has two hands. Let her hold them. Please. Like, of all of the OTOME games, this one makes the most sense to have, like, OT3 endings. Personally, in my opinion. Personally, in my opinion, I'd be all for that. But, unfortunately, the game's like, hee hee, no. Which sucks, even though I love it. It would be so good. I honestly do want more OTOME to be open to, like, kind of those, like, polyamorous route solutions. I know that must be a pain in the ass to, like, write out and, like, program or what have you, because it'd probably have to be based on, like, perfectly balanced affection levels or whatever, but, like, come on, man. Come on, man. It'd be so good. Yuno be like, I want to be in the cage at morning and hold hands of shit at night. No, no, no. I want to go out with Shin to eat sweets during the day, and then at night I want to be locked up in the cage. Nighttime is perfect for cage time. Although Shin would probably be like, why do you insist on being in there? As I'm just like, because there are plushies and it is comfortable and I like it. Next question. Anyway. But no, like, I don't usually, like, I'm fine with the fact that a lot of OTOME are pretty monogamous, but, like, of all the OTOME games that exist, this one makes the most sense to have polyamorous endings, and yet it doesn't because they are cowards, but that's okay. I'd rather it be, like, these sorts of polyamorous endings than, like, specifically, like, a harem ending. Harem endings don't really appeal to me in the same way. Romance should be a pure triangle, in my opinion. Learning so much about Budo through these OTOME. H is to not be seen. Strap with a plushie in the box. No, you're so right. The marketable plushie will convince me. It's tough because harem is just poly but we're cowards usually. It's more like polyamory, but it's one person with a bunch of partners. And the partners don't date each other. I feel like it would be more polyamory if some of the other partners also dated each other. But again, cowards. Cowardly actions. But it's okay. I also know that there's just some OTOME where it wouldn't make sense to pair them up. But, like, there's also so much fan service where the love interests will interact with each other and, like, banter. And it's always just like, are they flirting? Am I just, like, being forced to watch them flirt? Why am I here? That also could be because I like BL. Who knows? There are people who actually play OTOME just for the sake of seeing the love interests interact and, like, shipping them romantically. And they don't really care about the heroine. They just kind of make heroine be the voyeur in the situation. Very funny. I am not like that. I do actually like dating the guys. But I can't deny if I see two characters with a strong dynamic interacting, I'll be like, strokes my chin. So if they were into each other and you as well, yes, that is my ideal. That would be peak performance, personally. And now you officially know too much about me. Anyways, let's talk about how much I hate Ukyo. Let's talk about this frickin' loser. Anyways, so Ukyo. Where do I begin with this guy? Okay, where do I begin with this guy? Okay. Saying that I hate him is a strong sentiment that is not entirely true, but it also is. Okay, so when you start Ukyo's route, you are not technically dating him, because his whole thing is that he is trying to avoid you like the plague. He is like, I am running for my life away from you. I do not wish to speak to you. I do not wish to have interactions. I do not wish to have relations. I'm vibing over here, away from you. However, we find out a lot about the different worlds through this, by the way. Because unfortunately, Ukyo is the true route, so you learn a lot about the overall world building of this place through his route. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out where to start with this, because his route has so much to unpack. Restraining order he would never go to such an extreme length, because he does technically still need to be, he does technically still need to be near the heroine, or, like, have the ability to be near her for reasons that I'm about to explain. Okay, so I guess I'm just gonna explain his, like... I'm gonna explain the plot, okay? Rather than the route, I'm just gonna explain the overall plot so that you can kind of understand where I'm coming from here. So, several years... Well, maybe not several years. A couple, like, maybe a year or two before the start of the game. Ukyo is a freelance photographer, for the record. He is taking photos at the I think it's a historical site? I don't remember. There's something related to, like, where he's taking pictures. Like, that's related to his family. And, the heroine happens to be there on a school trip. So, let's, for the record, Ukyo is, like, 24, I think, in the canon, and the heroine is, like, 18. If you met her when she... Anyway. So anyway, he sees her while he's taking pictures at this, like, historical site related to his grandfather, or, like, his family in some capacity. And then he becomes, like, fixated on her. He is just like, she is beautiful. She is the perfect muse for my pictures. And so he starts taking a lot of, like, photos of her, and they kind of, like, bond while she is there on this school trip. And, like, he falls in love with her, and I think she also kind of falls in love with him, if I remember correctly. And then, circumstances happen where, because he's a photographer, he travels a lot for work. Sometimes he travels abroad, sometimes he, just does more stuff, like, within the area of Japan. He gets transferred to the area of Japan that she's in for her schooling, and they run into each other again. And they're just like, oh, hi, what a coincidence, must be fate. So they get a chance to talk even more, and they fall in love and stuff. I'm trying to remember the specifics of how this happens, but basically, he goes into the heroine's university with her, on what I think is July 31st. I can't entirely remember. Maybe it's August 31st. I don't recall. My brain's a bit small. I'm trying to remember, but I cannot entirely. I forget what... It's a significant date, though, because it's related to the date that the game takes place in. Are your souls connected by fate? They believe they are. But he goes in with her to, like... I think she, like, left her textbook or something in one of the labs. And so he follows her, but there is a explosion that sets the entire wing of the university that they are in on fire, and Ukyo tries to rescue her and like get her out of there as best as he can, but she enters a coma and dies. Like, I believe she dies on, like, I think it's exactly on August 31st, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I think it's like it's August 31st. And this tears him apart. He is so heartbroken by this because he was in love with her and like they just had like a starting relationship, and he especially feels like she personally was robbed of life. And so he wants the opportunity to prevent her death. He wishes he could have saved her. And he ends up meeting a spirit who is very similar to Orion. I have to look up his name though, because I do not remember it offhand. Amnesia. Hold on. I have to look up the character's name. Ah, frick. I never remember the character's name because they only appear in this route. Is the problem. Where is... Right, Neil. Okay, it's Neil. N-H-I-L. Neil. Okay. So, Neil. He meets Neil, and Neil is like, hey, you have a desire. I can grant desires. Collab? And basically what Neil does is reset time to the beginning of August. And... Or, well, not reset time, but basically Neil takes Ukyo to another world at the beginning of August, I should say. Neil basically grants Ukyo the ability to hop between dimensions to try and save the heroine. So the first couple tries, it doesn't necessarily work out. She still somehow ends up perishing one way or another, because it's part of her destiny. It's part of her fate line to die at the end of August. So as much as he is trying to prevent this fate from happening to her, she keeps dying. It's not always the fire. It's not always the same, like, explosion that kills her. Sometimes she dies in a car crash. Sometimes sometimes she falls off a cliff. Sometimes she experiences something else. Like, something kills her. The world is out to get her because she's supposed to be dead, basically. And he goes through an infinite number of timelines. They imply that he's been doing this for, like, centuries, or, like, decades, at the very least. They imply that he's been doing it for so long. I think, like, even though he's bodily, like, 24, like, 23, 24, I think he's, like, close to being 100, if I remember correctly, at the end of the route. Anyway, so the more this happens, though, the more insane he gets. Because they come to a realization as they're going through these worlds. If they truly want the heroine to survive, Ukyo has to be the one to die. And basically it is implied that there is no universe where the two of them can both live. One of them has to die. And if he really wants the heroine to survive, then he has to find a way to die. And it always happens on the 31st of August. So, the implication here, of course, is that there are other... He is there in all of the other routes, and it is always the same Ukyo. That's the thing that kind of fucked me up about this, is finding out that the Ukyo that we meet in all of the other worlds, like the one in Spade, the one in Diamond, the one in Heart, the one in Clover, that's all the same Ukyo. That's Ukyo trying to make sure that we find love with somebody else, never fall in love with him, live, and then he dies. It is implied in, like, all the other routes that Ukyo, like, disappears. You never see Ukyo again after the 31st. Because he dies. in order for you to have that happy ending with your love interest. He makes sure that you pair up with him and that you are happy with him and that you can live so that he dies. However, because he has to experience this death so many times, and he still has this desire to be, like, alive, he develops a split personality. It's referred to as Ura Ukyo, as in, like, the one that's, like, under or, like, beneath the actual Ukyo. And he develops this alter that's, like, a protector of sorts, where he thinks that they should be the ones who live. Why do they have to die for some random-ass woman who, like, has other worlds where she is happy without him? Why do they have to sacrifice their own happiness for her sake? So in some of the bad endings, you encounter quote-unquote Ukyo, but it is actually this alter Ukyo who is desperate to make sure you die so that he can live. But any time that he actually succeeds in killing the heroine, the regular Ukyo, the one that still loves her, forces a reset and makes them, like, world jump again. But they can't keep doing this forever. Neil's power is slowly, like, weakening the more jumps that he does. It is implied that Joker World is, like, the last real jump that Neil can do in order to, like, give them a chance at finding happiness. And he decides to try one thing that he thinks could be enough to help them, which is drawing in the spirit of his apprentice, Orion, and making him fuse, well, at first the plan isn't to make them fuse, but he wants Orion to, like, find the heroine and, like, guide her, like how he has been guiding Ukyo. But instead of, like, being a proper guide, Orion, like, fuses with her and makes her have memory loss. But the world is, like, desperately trying to kill the heroine because she is not supposed to be alive. So this version of the world, Joker World, is, like, doing everything it can to figure out how to kill her. It's making the fan club go psycho. It's making Toma want to be really possessive. It's making, like, cars are constantly trying to run her over. She gets locked up in a shrine at one point, and they set the shrine on fire. This is the fan club, by the way, because they're trying to, like, just get rid of her. The entire world is influenced by the fact that her fate line is supposed to be that she dies. So the world is doing anything it can to get her existence out because she is not supposed to be there. Yeah, she's marked for death, and everything that they've been doing so far has been, like, making her fight against that. Fate doesn't like it. Fate's just like, oh, that's cringe. Meanwhile, she is trying to make sure that Ukyo doesn't die because she wants to be with Ukyo, like, romantically. And she doesn't understand why he keeps trying to push her away and, like, why he insists on, like, taking on all of these burdens and keeps ranting about how she needs to be safe. Long story short, I forget the specifics of, like, what has to happen to, like, get them there to this point. That's why Ukyo knew what was going on in the Toma route. Yes, that is why he knew. Because he's been through worlds like this before. Worlds where she dated Toma, worlds where she dated Shin. All over the place. He's seen it all. They've tried, like, every possible combination to try and make it so that they both can live. But it's always that one has to die. And because Ukyo is the type to self-sacrifice, he will always choose to die. Except for the fact that Ura Ukyo is the one who wants to protect them and make sure that she dies so that they can live. But they'll just keep starting over because Ukyo prioritizes the heroine above all else. She is his everything. I think I'd get more annoyed if I kept repeating life like that if something repeats. Yeah. No, Ura Ukyo, I feel, is very justified in how he feels. It makes sense to me that he wants to, like, be the one to live for once. I think he would be... I think it's weird that Ukyo is so willing to just disappear. I want variation after so many tries. Yeah. No, like, Neil has been taking them to a bunch of worlds where certain things are different, just to, like, see if that can be the way that they're both happy. But long story short, they end up in the university, like, on the day that the explosion is supposed to happen. And Alter Ukyo is like trying to pull out all the stops to try and get the heroine to die. And she's trying to survive because she thinks that if she can just manage to get through all of it and live until past midnight, then that means that they can technically break the curse that they are both under. And that's part of why Neil wanted Orion to be attached to her, because Orion can like help her like avoid a lot of the fate line stuff, like a lot of the shenanigans. Like Orion, while he can't physically manifest and help her, he's like guiding her as best as he can to make sure that she will stay safe, so that she can live past the 31st. But like basically they reach a point, and like Ukyo is trying to stop Alter Ukyo as well. He switches a lot during the like most climactic part of the event. But he's like constantly trying to make sure that she can also live. And then because he knows that this is Neil's last loop, what he ends up doing, because he's so fucking tired of having to go through this over and over, and of like being part of the reason why she dies in some of these worlds, I think he kills himself first. He actually like takes the knife that Alter Ukyo is going to use to kill her and uses it to stab himself, so that she'll no longer be in danger by his hand and will actually live past midnight. And like that does work. He does die. And it gets her past midnight and she survives, but then part of what happens too is that because his pact with Neil was broken through him dying during that particular period, instead of dying after, Neil is able to separate from him and like start regaining some of his power. So then what happens is Neil offers to grant the heroine's wish, and the heroine basically wishes for a world where both of them can live. I forget how they managed to like logic this into existence, because at first Ukyo doesn't even want to like wake up, to be honest. He's like, I'm so tired, I've been doing this for so long, I just want to rest. And the heroine's like, no, you can't rest, I love you and I want to be with you, and we just need to find a world where we can actually make that happen. And because Neil has more of his power back, because he's no longer like tied to Ukyo and like not super weakened anymore, because technically the wish was granted and the heroine survived, he is able to make that wish come true, and they're able to find a world where both of them can exist. And Ukyo still has all of his memories of everything that happened, and I think the heroine doesn't necessarily remember at first. She doesn't remember until the sequel game, I believe. Ukyo should have wished for that in the first place. Hey, he wanted to just save her. It's the fault of Neil for kind of taking that initial wish literally and only offering the like dimension hopping. Like it was the limitations of that initial wish. But the problem with this is that both Neil and Orion are then punished by the gods for intervening so directly with humans like this, so they are also forced to become humans. So part of this world, then, is that Ukyo and the heroine are, like, living together and happy and in love and stuff, and then also Neil and Orion are, like, human teenagers. Well, Neil is more like a slightly older teen, and Orion is a baby, but they're human now, and they're chilling. I think they have all of their memories, but they're just, like, chilling as humans. They are not allowed to interact with Ukyo or the heroine ever again, because, like, the heroine's already forgotten about them anyway. So that is kind of implied to be the best possible ending. So that is the gist of the Ukyo route. I might be missing one or two details, but that's kind of the gist of it. To not leave you with the memory of dying over and over. Yeah, unfortunately, Ukyo has to live with his trauma, and he also still has the altar. Like, it's not like he gets over the split personality thing. So he also just has to, like, make peace with the fact that he still has his altar there. too, and they will just like randomly switch sometimes, as you do when you have a split personality. So that's like something that they work through in the sequel games. It's the heroine like showing that she loves both sides of him, and like being able to support him through all of that. Living with trauma, peace sign. Anyway, for me, Ukyo's route itself is inherently, like, a good story. Though, like, doing it over and over again, of course, is, like, something that makes sense. The fact that he formed the split personality makes sense. I just... In the times where they want you to be endeared to Ukyo, they focus on the fact that he is a girl failure. In the sequel games, it's implied that Alter Ukyo is, like, the whole reason they can even survive, because Alter Ukyo will, like, cook and, like, clean and, like, take care of the body, so to speak, like the vessel. Because otherwise, Ukyo just will forget to eat. If he does eat, he does not pay attention to when things have mold or when they are spoiled. He will just consume them because at least it's something in his stomach. He also rarely spends time in the house. He will go outside and, like, sleep in the grass because he thinks that, he still thinks that his alter is a danger to people, specifically to the heroine. So he wants to be in public to where people could, like, stop him if he were to go crazy. And that's where he goes to sleep. That means he sleeps outside. And usually Alter Ukyo is like, why are we outside? This is so stupid. They play it up more for laughs in the sequel games. They wanted to be Steins Gate so bad in this route. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember if Steins Gate came out around the same time or not, but I do think that those, like, doing it over and over again storylines were kind of popular at the time. I was about to ask what Alter Ukyo even wants anymore since he gets to live. I think I get it. See, he gets to live, but, like, normal Ukyo is such a girl failure that they are constantly in danger of still dying. Because Ukyo is just so incompetent as an adult. This man does not eat. This man sleeps on the grass. This man does not take care of his house. And yes, he doesn't have a reason to kill her anymore, and he doesn't intend to. But, like, he still has to exist to protect Ukyo because Ukyo is fucking stupid. Ukyo does not know how to take care of himself. Ukyo is a girl failure. And he's meant to be the, like, Ponkotsu type of, like, clumsy, like, I'm so bad at surviving, ha 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 ha. Don't you feel pity for me? Like, we're supposed to find that cute, and I'm just not into that. If anything, I would have preferred if we just had constant Alter Ukyo. It's actually very funny. In the sequel game, you can get a CG that is dedicated to you specifically marrying the Alter version of Ukyo. After you marry normal Ukyo, you're, like, married to two different versions. And the Alter is treated like a slightly different character. But, like, it's just, like, you would think that he could be considered so much cooler, but instead, like, his whole personality is just girl failure. And then the Alter is the one who's, like, cool and smooth and, like, romantic and, like, forward. Normal Ukyo is just so, like, I can't touch you. I don't deserve it. Oh no, I'm so sorry. I, like, fell and, like, landed on top of you. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. Meanwhile, like, Alter Ukyo is just like, oh, we ended up falling on you? That's funny. Anyway, I guess since you're in this compromising position, why don't I just whisper sweet nothings into your ear and get you flustered? And it's just like, more of that, please. None of this girl failure crap, please. Now I feel bad for Alter Ukyo. You should! You should! His host is so cringe. And, like, I think regular Ukyo usually doesn't remember the things that the Alter does. At least not at first, because they're not really communicating within the headspace. As they get more used to each other, they're able to start, like, communicating and explaining what they each do in the body, like, in between switching. But it used to be that, like, regular Ukyo just did not know what the altar got up to and would wake up and be like, did altar hurt you? Did he do something bad? I'm so sorry. Altar's the true victim. See, you guys are me. You understand now. I just think that Ukyo's overall appeal is the fact that he's supposed to be this, like, hobo, girl failure, like, clumsy. Like, people are supposed to find that endearing and cute, but, like, he's a grown-ass man. The heroine is, like, 18 in, like, the main story, like, 18, 19. She should not be that mature compared to this grown man with a full-time job. He's out of school. He's educated, presumably. Maybe he went to art school. He's educated, presumably. Like, she kind of has to, like, be the one to help clean up the messes alongside the altar. And that's kind of like... I don't know if I like that vibe. I just kind of prefer my love interests to be guys who can take care of women. Like, the only thing Ukyo can really do is the fact that he's rich from his photography. That, like, he has money. Like, he can take care of her and, like, she can move into his house and, like, they'd be fine. Because he has a house, he just doesn't really use it. But, like... It's probably just my personal preference, but I feel like it would have been a lot cooler if they focused on the fact that he was, like... loving and dedicated and, like... would take care of you more. It's just, like, every time he tries to protect her from things that would cause danger, he's so girl failure about it. A huge thing about Ultimate Guys is we'll take care of and protect and be loyal to you. Yeah. And he does have that in spades. That's not incorrect, you know? But it's just, like, I just kind of wish he wasn't such a klutz about it. I think I'm just not into the, like, cutesy, clumsy guys. I think I want my guys to be cool. It's not like like, even when I go down routes where the guy is supposed to be, like, super cute, I still want them to have, like, cool moments. And I just don't think Ukyo has enough cool moments for me to, like, feel attracted to him. I just think he spends too much time being a gushy man baby. It's spades, isn't he, Joker? Laugh track, laugh track, laugh track, laugh track. Good one. Definitely never been said before. Most unique joke on the internet. Fair preference? Yeah, thank you. Honestly, the fact that Shin was not the true route made me furious. I was like, you're telling me that this guy is the true route? This creature? Like, this guy? This skinny twink? Anyway. At least the other characters have, like, inklings of muscle. Like, why is he's literally... What is on this arm? You can't tell me this isn't just a twig that he stuck to his body. I'm mad. And the story goes out of its way to be like, he's so frail because he barely eats. He's like a delicate little, like, waif. A lot of the other characters think that Ukyo is like a girl from behind because he's so slender. And I'm just like, there's my muscle. You ever order, like... This is like if you were allowed to order all bone chicken. Like, if you could just order chicken bones, you would get Ukyo. Ukyo is a bad Naruto cosplayer. Shin is the cosplayer because he does the most detective work. Ukyo got the costume, but then forgot to grab the personality from the store. Protein Doko. I know, right? Where'd it go? You ever wanted extra bones in your bone-in chicken? Well, here you go. I don't know. Like, I like him. I'm giving him a lot of shit. But, like, I do like him still. I did still think the route was very compelling. I still cried. It's also just... It's just... In all the sequel media, it just focuses so much on how he's a freaking girl failure. And that he's, like, super clumsy. And that, like... They also make a big deal about how he feels like an outsider because a lot of, you know, a lot of this main route he's trying to avoid being with the heroine because he thinks that she should just like fall in love with somebody else and like not even bother with him. In a lot of the sequel stuff, they have like all of the main characters interacting, but Ukyo will still make himself out to be an outsider because he still doesn't feel like he fits in with everybody else. He tried so hard to avoid them before, even though he knows like everything about them because of how often he would spy on the heroine and her interactions with the other love interests. So they make him seem like a stalker. Like, he'll randomly bring up things he knows about the other guys, and they'll be like, how do you know that? And he's just like, observation? I noticed it when I took a picture? And I just... They never meet Alter, by the way. In most of the sequel media, they really only ever meet, regular Ukyo. I don't think they really ever meet Alter. You like him? I mean, Alter Ukyo is what you like. Normal Ukyo is. Don't call me out. You're right that I like the Alter more than the normal. I can't help it, though. He's just such an exasperated, like, I feel like they're almost like twins, you know? Like, I just feel like he's the exasperated older twin who's having to deal with his disaster of a younger twin. It's just very silly. Alter Ukyo needs a friend. He really does. But he doesn't really manifest in front of the other love interests. Unless it's, like, the like, scary, bad ending time where he's trying to kill the heroine. I think that's, like, the only other time when the love interests, like, see Alter. As far as I know. I can't remember any times where they talked to the Alter outside of that. But yeah, that's Amnesia. At least Amnesia Memories. I would probably have to dedicate a separate presentation to the sequel games, like fan discs, but I don't know if I'm gonna go that far. Whew. I think I managed to do this in good time. Almost 3 hours. That's not bad. Better than the like 4 or 5 hours I talked when I was first presenting on Otome. I think this is still a win. Thank you for listening to my rambling nonsense. I do really like this game. I give it a lot of crap because of this true route being so silly, but it was like the first Otome I played. Yeah, I think I played this before I played Bustafellows. So this was like the first Otome that I really like committed time to like playing a lot of. So it has a very special place in my heart. I hope that this has convinced you guys to maybe consider giving it a try sometime. It goes on sale on Steam pretty often, and it'll usually be on sale for pretty cheap, so if you're ever interested and you happen to see it on sale, you should definitely consider giving it a try. I'm sure the story is like way more interesting than I made it sound just by rambling about it. Would recommend. I think it's a good middle ground between like love story and like suspenseful story. It's really good. I really like it. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and call it here. We're gonna call it a stream. These Otome streams are top grade from you. Thank you. I want to be able to talk about more like modern Otome soon as well. I was saying earlier, but there are a lot of Otome games coming out soon that I want to start playing. So maybe I'll be able to do more of these on like other more like recent Otome. But that would also mean I'll probably have to start playing multiple Otome games at the same time. Oh no. Multiple Otome games. Oh, scary. Imagine. No. But like, I'm thinking about doing that with some of the other more modern Otome games that are coming out. Because there's so many good ones that are coming out. And I'd love to be able to share them with you guys as I go through them. Since I can't stream them currently, I guess all I can do is, like, talk about them. It's so fun to listen to you talk about these and just explore the characters and connections. Thank you! It means a lot. This series is a big risk. but I'm glad that I was able to get you guys at least kind of interested in in a thing that I am very passionate about. But yeah, we're going to call it a stream for today. Tomorrow we have the members only. I have a secret that I'm going to be sharing with the members. I promise I will this time. I promise. We're gonna do it for sure. So look forward to the members only secret event. And then I'll be posting my schedule for next week, hopefully. I gotta work on that in the morning. It's gonna be a lot of the streams that were supposed to happen this week, but didn't because reasons. So, sorry if the schedule looks basically the exact same, but I owe you guys those streams. So, I hope you will look forward to that. But yeah, in the meantime, thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with me. I hope that you have a good rest of your time zone. And until I see you again, Yunotsu!